Good morning. My name is Brandy, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the CA Client Management Global User Community Webcast conference call. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. If you should need assistance during the call, please press star, then 0, and an operator will come back online to assist you. Thank you. Mr. Dana Gibson, you may begin your conference.
Thank you. This is Dana Gibson. I'm the president of the ITCM community. And this morning we've got a few different things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about mobile device manager and the things that are going on there. Rich Little, first of all, is going to talk about the top 5 support questions that support gets on probably a daily basis. And if you have any questions at all about anything that he says or any of the presenters say, there's a Q&A tab on the top right of your screen, and that would be the place to put those questions, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. And then at the end, Laural Gentry is going to talk about CA World and the exciting things that happened there. All right, Mary?
It appears we're having some audio issues.
Richard, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you have presenter and you can start your presentation.
Yeah, if we have audio problems like that, that means the open lines are copying everything from the call-in lines.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name's Rich Little. I'm a principal support engineer. I've probably spoken to many of you. And yeah, I'm going to be reviewing, it's the top 5, or my top 5 message board posts, but in no particular order, just to highlight the use of the community and how useful it is, and what benefit both CA employees and our rest of the community add to that. It's a very lively forum. So my first one, this was a fairly recent post about trying to apply the C1 patch to the MDB. As you can see, it has 4 posts and 132 hits. So there's the question. I'm not going to read out the whole of the text. The basic question was, well, there were 2 questions. One was, do you need the CA ITRM password when applying C1? And then a secondary question was, what's the default for the CA ITRM password? Very simple answer. The default password is, as you can see there, not _changed R11. But for C1, you don't actually need to define this. The MDB update won't even prompt you for it. And in fact, that was actually something that support engineers fed back during the creation of the C1, was that we should have removed that field because it wasn't used, just to simplify the whole process. I thought I would highlight this one just to show that, there's no stupid question that can be asked on a community. It can be something really complex, or it can be asked something really, really simple. We're there to help, and everybody benefits. The second question that I picked off the community was about moving a domain manager from a physical to a virtual system. So again, this was a very simple one. The question was exactly as I said, how to move it. And this highlighted that there is a technical document already available for that. So again, in this instance, it was a very easy way for a customer to ask ask a question about that and receive feedback very easily and very quickly. Didn't need to raise a support issue or anything else, and was able to continue with what they wanted to do. The second one, or the third one, is one that's very dear to my heart, because it was mine. As you can see, it had over 3,000 hits on this. Now, this was something that myself and some other engineers created in an effort to try and assist customers when applying patches to our own product. It's a script that allows you to package up the test fix and then put it into a software package and deploy it via software delivery, and it applies the patch without the need, but also gives you proper feedback and drives the whole thing. It's driven by a DMS script. This was a particularly good post because it not simply because of what we provided, but for the discussions that it caused around this whole process. And there's various posts from other customers in this, suggesting other alternative ways of how to do it, and asking for additional functionality to be added to it. Some of which has been done, some of which hasn't. But it was a very good example of how the community can work together to really try and help everybody resolve common issues that everybody suffers. The post that I chose was PC couldn't check scalability server. As you can see, over 1,000 hits on this one as well, so another popular post on the forum. And the posting was that a particular agent wasn't able to communicate with its scalability server. Now, the first response on this one was, we need to check the basic communication. So can you CAF ping, CAM ping, and ping in both directions? And the response was that CAF ping couldn't work, but CAM ping and ping both did work. What this immediately suggests is that there's a problem with the packet size, and so you then check the specific packet size and identify which is the smallest packet size that's going to work, and then configure CAM to do so. And that resolved the issue. Now, again, this is another very common problem that we do see with people's networks. It's to do with the what's called the MTU, the maximal transfer unit, and the packet size that CAF can use to try and communicate using the CAM protocol can be larger than some networks by default allow, so you have to then configure CAM to send smaller packet sizes. Again, another simple configuration, simple test, simple troubleshooting steps, but it can resolve issues for customers or for anybody very easily without the need of raising, again, in this instance, without the need of having to raise a support issue or anything else. So, the community really helped in. I was involved in this post, but there were lots of customer posts as well. And my last one is this one. And this was a post that was, a customer had an awful lot of duplicate computer names, and they wanted to find an easy way to query those out. In the post, there was lots of entries on this from both CA and customers, and there were two main solutions that were given. One, another customer actually uploaded a query that could be imported into client automation, which then allowed them to identify the duplicate host names. And the second one was from CA, from me, which was giving them the query and adding it into and then instructions on how to create that within the query interface. Both of which were great solutions for customers' problems. So again, the community here has really shown its value in helping a customer solve a problem that was quite quite heavy for them, and in a very short space of time, they've got the solution which has enabled them to continue forward. So it really just shows the power of our community. We have an awful lot of experts, most of them not CA, and the knowledge that we have out there is outstanding, and it's just a real benefit to everybody to be able to make use of that knowledge. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Rich. I'd like to introduce Sundar, who is the product manager for our CA mobile device management product. Sundar, I can turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sundarraj. I am a Senior Director of Product Management for the CA Mobility. We have a variety of products in our portfolio. I will be today covering the CA MDM product that we recently introduced to the marketplace. Let me just switch to my desktop here. Okay. Basically, we acquired YCA from a mobility point of view. We basically acquired this technology from SAP. We got the source code license from SAP, and we on a near term, we basically rebranded the product and then introducing it as a CA MDM product. I will get into the details of the product. YCA, in terms of IT management, we are ranked #1 according to the Forrester. And mobility is a natural extension to the desktop management software suite we already have as part of Client Auto. And our vision is to actually get on to #1 in the mobility management space. We want to get to, there are two-step process from our point of view to get there. The first one is basically offer an industry-leading EMM software solution to solve today's problem. But where we want to go is basically based on our background and DNA of CA. We want to provide a holistic view of the entire mobile ecosystem in terms of managing the devices, managing the application, and managing the content. So if I switch to the step one, how we are going to get there is we first introducing, we are introducing the MDM product. I will get into details of the MDM product a little later. And what we have is a device which is typically a BYOD device. When I refer to device, it is a iOS device, Android device, BlackBerry or Windows Phone, and also Windows Desktop. And with our current solution that we actually introduced into market, we can bring these devices under management very quickly. I will talk about it a little later. And when we look at the mobile space or a mobile device, device management is the first starting point from our point of view. And obviously, there are applications and the content we want to manage as well. So if you take a look at our long-term vision and roadmap, you will see the various products that we have in our portfolio, which will will bring to life. And the first product that we're introducing is the MDM product. And we also have a email management product. Basically, it's a secure native email experience. There are different approaches. There are approaches which are container approach, where they can encrypt they can create a container and publish a bunch of apps, including a mobile email app. What we feel that based on our research and the market feedback, basically it compromises the user experience. Our solution is very different. We actually provide a native user experience, at the same time secure the email, very confidential email document. But the focus for today will be MDM. And where we are going from those four products into the next generation product is mobile service management. I will give you one good example. I mean, when you take a look at a desktop space, these kind of problems existed, and that was solved with the Client Auto product. For instance, when you have an app that is part of which is part of the ecosystem, and we want to know how that application performs. So application performance management becomes very key. And if there is any crashes in the application, crash analytics. So what we have envisioned is mobile service management, which will actually encompass all those solutions under one umbrella. Essentially, that's our vision. That's where we find a lot of products in the marketplace as dot products by small companies here and there. But being a CA with respect to our portfolio, our vision is to take the next big step of managing the mobile service management. What we are seeing, and it should not be a surprise to folks who are listening on the call, is basically iPhone and iPads and Android is actually, whether we like it or not, that's getting into enterprise. And people are used to having those devices and the usability and the user experience that go with it. And that market is growing at a rapid pace. And when I come into a company, I want to use my own device. BYOD is seem to be the model of preference go forward. We can take a couple of approaches. The approach that we are taking is basically a bring your own device. If you want to bring your own device, since you are actually accessing and consuming enterprise content, enterprise application, we want to give you the freedom of using your own device. At the same time, we want to provide certain controls that enterprise IT admin can be comfortable in terms of managing the device, and managing the app, and managing the content. When we talk about specifically on the device, we will see as the presentation continues, we will keep the spirit of BYOD all along. If an end user does not like some of the controls that are being imposed on the device, he or she will have an ability to take that control out and then bring the device back to how it was before it entered the enterprise. This is a very important slide that I want to spend a little time. We do have a client auto product in our portfolio. As you guys know, you are consuming the product. We have a clear demarcation between these two products. We feel that these two products will stand on its own, and it has a place for its own in enterprise setting. On the left side, if it is a company-owned traditional laptops that's issued by your IT administrator, Client Auto is the perfect solution to solve the problem. It can manage the physical desktop, virtual desktop laptops and applications, and it can do service pack upgrades, OS upgrades, application configuration, and so on and so forth. The angle that we come from is basically employee-owned. It could be an iOS iPhone, or it can be iPad, and it can also be their own PC. And if they bring in, and they have to adhere to some enterprise rules, and we do actually have an agent running on a desktop, providing BYOD freedom, at the same time manageability of the same desktop assets and mobile assets. We want to give a little background of introduction of this product. Basically, to start with, what we can do when you get a device, it provides a user-friendly enrollment. And when we say zero touch, we really mean zero touch. I will talk about it in later slides. And once you have an iPhone or iPad or Android, for you to be productive in terms of consuming some of the enterprise apps, we also have an app store which actually provides those delivery of those applications through an application that gets installed as part of CA MDM. And the volume purchase plan also is part of our offering. And since the device comes into the corporate network, there are certain rules that they have to adhere to. For instance, if the device is jailbroken or rooted, we want to make sure the device is not entering, because they may have some third-party applications which are not probably appropriate in the enterprise setting. For instance, let's say that I have a phone and I rooted and I am running a PDA-NET type of an application which provides a NAT type of function. Then immediately what it does, it exposes the enterprise network to a third party, which we want to avoid. So we can make sure that none of the devices that are not supposed to be inside the corporate network, we can avoid that accessing and entering the corporate network. On the management side, once we configured it, once we provided a productivity application, for some reason the device is compromised. Either the device, you lose the device, knowingly, unknowingly, then we have mechanism to manage it. All that without any IT administrator's involvement. We have a concept of self-service portal. You can enter into your own portal with your own Active Directory credential and basically locate the device. You can remotely lock the device. You can remotely wipe the device. When I say remotely lock, basically lock mechanism that is found in iOS and Android. And when I say remote wipe, there are a couple of things. Number one, there is no way for you to be able to access that particular device. It is too far. Somebody has stolen it, and it has corporate data, and it also has your personal data. And if it is in your interest to wipe it, you can choose to wipe that. That's some function that we can get along with our CA MDM. I also want to emphasize we can also do some sort of a selective wipe. What I mean by that is, when you enroll the device, and then there are a bunch of applications that was provisioned along with the enrollment process and installation process, what we can also do is create some, through the protocols, MDM protocols, we can define those applications that got provisioned to you, and you can actually remove the control of those applications. What it will do is essentially it will leave the device the way it was before you actually had our software installed. So you do have a freedom. If you take a look at the product, the BYOD freedom will be completely kept all along the way. And the last point is the telecom expense management. The fact that we are actually an MDM client, we can actually collect some of the data roaming information or the calls that are made as part of your corporate access, corporate agreement. Those informations are also available for our MDM server, and the intent of that is to be able to analyze and find out the usage, and then if that makes sense, to negotiate a favorable rate with different carriers, depending upon how the large enterprise users are using their telecom, their mobile phones. And finally, as a part of support, as I mentioned, we can track the device. We do have a self-service portal where the user can log in himself or herself and locate the device, just like how you could do it in iCloud, but in enterprise setting. And all the applications that are delivered as part of the initial enrollment, you can make sure that applications, if there is a new version of application, you don't have to go around and look around in different locations. It's all consolidated and provided in one simple app. What is CMDM? Essentially, this is the layout, how it, from a high level, we have two different flavors. We actually have a flavor that runs on on-prem. We also have a flavor that we are introducing in a SaaS environment. So on the left side, you see that devices that are essentially can be managed. And we also have, some of the components are optional depending upon the enterprise needs. The relay server, which is sitting right in the middle of the network, provides a way for you to not to worry about changing the firewall ports and so on. On the right side, you see two different portals. One is the administrative console, where the administrator basically defines the policies, what types of policies, enrollment. There are 4 types of policies we'll talk about. Depending upon which part of organization you belong to, which geo you are from, we have an ability to specifically push the configuration to the device, and also specifically the application that makes sense for that particular group, which is part of the Active Directory group. For instance, if you are within a sales organization, we can just push the Salesforce.com app. And if you are within engineering organization, if you have any productivity tools that goes along with the engineering department, we can push that as well. And it's all preset totally up to the IT admin of that particular enterprise to decide what type of application that they want to push, and those things can be automatically provisioned. We also tightly integrate with Active Directory, which means right out of the box, you can integrate our CA MDM server with Active Directory without any new additional configuration as part of the authentication or authentication side. When we deliver certain configuration to the device, we may have to create certificates. For instance, for iOS, there are certificates that is needed to become a part of an MDM client, and those certificates can be provisioned and pushed to the device automatically. So from a high level, we provide device management. The fact that we make sure that we have a relay server in the network provides a security management. And on the right side, as you can see, depending upon the role you are part of the organization, we can provide application management. Product is highly scalable, and one of the things that's very unique about our product compared to some of the competition is we know some of our competition has iOS, Android, Windows support. We also do support Windows desktop, and everything is web-based, and it's highly scalable. The protocol that we use are all modern protocols, which means we could essentially throw in additional load balancer on top of any of the sub-components or sub-components, relay server or MDM server. MDM server is made up of 3 different servers, and all of them communicate using standard HTTPS protocol. So scalability becomes extremely easy. And we also have a centralized SQL database, and we also have analytics similar to what client auto product does. Obviously, they're looking at 2 different assets, 2 different different set of devices, but we do actually have analytics built into it as well. The product is multi-tenant ready. You can create different tenants. Within the enterprise, you can create different organizations if you wish to, but as a central server, you can also have, you can create multi-tenant, which means you can give you can create, you get the power of ability to scale and also economy of scale. And administrative portal and customize, the self-service portal is very important to be customized because we deploy this product in different countries, and if they want to customize it to a specific language, right out of the box, we actually have the ability to do that. Security management, we can provide on-device encryption, and we can provide, obviously, by the virtue of doing AD, we do a device and user authentication. For Windows Desktop, we can provide backup and restore function. We can provide remote lock and wipe function. We can determine whether it's a device which is a rogue device, like a rooted or a jailbroken device, and we can block access, including not configuring the device. And we also have an ability to provide access control for a device which is not managed. By that, what I mean is, let's say that I have a device and I have Outlook credentials somehow. Unless this device is under management, we have mechanisms in place where we can prevent access to the email. That's a very unique feature for our product. And LDAP-based authentication, and we can unapprove any rogue devices. Configuration and policy enforcement. As I mentioned, there are basic functionality of our MDM product is an ability to configure. When an enterprise user has an access to the self-service portal, we can actually bring this device under management in less than 60 seconds. We can configure his passwords, email. We can push the calendar, VPN configuration, Wi-Fi configuration, and so on. And if we can do user grouping, that makes it a lot easier in terms of deployment, for large deployment. And we have a different way to group the users, very static, dynamic, and composite grouping. And we have a flexibility to apply the policy to any types of groups. The policy is very unique to this product in terms of how you want to deploy it. It's totally up to the imagination of IT administrator. And we also have an ability to do a group push notification. When I say push notification, I'm talking about native notification for iOS and Android. So we have a hookup to APNS and Google Cloud. So if you have some for some reason you want to announce something for the entire enterprise users, either via email or you want to push the notification through SMS, all those things are possible with our backend platform. This is how the application looks on the device. It's very simple, a few pages. It shows you the front end is essentially provides you an app store. We can blacklist and whitelist depending upon company policy. This is restricted to certain platforms. For instance, for Samsung, we can do that because they provide extended API. And we also can provide a customizable app store front. And enterprise access, we can be a front end for both enterprise app store, and we can also link to the public app store. For instance, if I find an app that deems meaningful for productivity of a company, for a group, we can, instead of user going and searching in the public app store, we can provide a front end to provide that as well. And we can automatically install enterprise apps as part of the provisioning process, and we can categorize apps by type. Windows Desktop is a key feature for us. It's a lightweight agent which runs on the Windows Desktop. We cover, it's basically a framework, and what we can do is essentially we can, one use case would be like pushing a file, and another use case would be installing an application, uninstalling an application. So we have a concept of a session channel. That channel is, we have a scripting capability where we can actually create a script and push this to the desktop, and the desktop can, basically access the Windows resource such as a registry. It can locate a file. It can upgrade a file. It's very, very flexible. I'll get into that in the next slide. We can also provide hardware inventory and the software inventory. All this information is visible if they have a Windows Desktop client running on the Windows client. And as I said, the configuration aspect, we can configure the registry, we can do a device setting, we can provision configuration files and data, and it is extremely customizable. So session channels is extremely extensible. As I mentioned briefly, we can do a lot of things via channels, and we have a scripting capability which makes it extremely powerful. You can see some of the features that some of the constructs as part of scripting that you can do. So you can see it's quite powerful. And here is a couple of use cases. I want to send a file, we can do that. And when you want to upgrade service pack, when you want to provide a service pack upgrade, we can do that. And we can launch any MSI file. That means we can install any application, we can uninstall any application. By virtue of scripting, we can do a silent install, silent uninstall, and so on. We have a software and package distribution capability, and we can do registry checks to determine what type of action that we need to take. We can launch install with required parameters. We can do a pre and post install actions, and we can also do a version check by virtue of examining registry and so on. And this is a very important slide that I want to actually emphasize, and I want to make sure that these two products that we have in our portfolio are very different. I mean, the one on the left is our mobile device management. It is communication protocols are optimized for low bandwidth, and it is scalable for thousands of devices, highly scalable and highly available. And it does use web protocols, which means the load balancing makes it a lot easier. And the conceptually, it's a framework. And on the client automation side, basically you guys are familiar with it, so I don't want to go over it. But you can see it's a little different in terms of what it can do. And our focus is primarily the mobile platforms and the lightweight management for Windows Desktop. And what we are also doing is basically in our roadmap, we want to basically integrate the asset aspect of these two platforms together. Basically, if you have a client auto, you are looking at, you're used to looking at the device inventory, application inventory, and the software inventory and so on. What we are doing essentially is to create a sort of a plugin within our in our product and leverage the feature that is present in client auto called asset collector, and periodically post the assets from our CAMDM. So that information will get reflected on client auto administrative console. For instance, if I have a process, the one which I am showing on the left side, ITCM integration process, it will run every day, programmable, depending upon the network and the IT administrator's needs. It will collect all the assets. And when I talk about assets, I'm talking about the device and application. And the inventory about, the device information about what operating system level is at, what type of Wi-Fi information that is present. All that information will be reflected periodically and pushed to the client auto's asset collector. When you look into the asset view of the client auto administrative console, you will get an access to the assets that is being managed by CAMDM. It is at this point it's read only. All we are showing is reflecting what the assets look like, and there is no other connection at this point or planned at this point in terms of merging policies or anything. We feel these two products stand. They are very, very different, catering to a very different audience, and we just want to leave it at that way. However, we want to make convenience for the customers who are consuming both these products to be able to look at the assets in a uniform way. And also, we also support, as I mentioned, we do provide carry support. So if you have a web reporting and so on and so forth, we have a plan in our roadmap to be able to show both those assets as a single uniform reporting structure. So we did a little prototyping, and I don't know whether you are able to see this, but you are able, basically what this is a concept where we take the inventory from our CAMDM and reflecting it as an admin console on the client auto. As I'm not sure you can see it. Basically, it shows a Samsung phone, and they're running an Android. If you look into the inventory, it will show application inventory, software inventory, and so on and so forth. We have an analytics. We have web-based analytics, and also we have 2 mobile apps that can be downloaded from App Store or the Marketplace, which provides static reports, BI reports, and we also support Explorer, which means you can slice and dice the reports the way you would like it. So that feature exists right out of the box. Key advantages: scalable, highly available. We support Windows Desktop, Zero Touch by IT Administrator, and rich policy architecture. Relay server is optional, but depending upon enterprise needs. And we integrate tightly with LDAP Certification Authority and all the popular email systems. And we also provide mechanism to restrict email access if it is device is being managed by MDM. And you can bring your device under management in less than 60 seconds. And telecom expense management is very unique, especially since we are managing the phone, and that's a key expense incurred by the enterprise. The telecom expense management is integrated in the platform. This kind of goes through bullet by bullet the features of our product. In the interest of time, I will probably skip it, but you can see it is in terms of architecture how we are different from any other competitors out there. Security aspect, Windows Desktop management, analytics. The key differentiator for us compared to any of the competition out there is Windows Desktop management and analytics, and also the diversity in the device support. And self-service portal is very unique to us, which reduces the amount of time the IT admin has to be involved in this management of mobile phones and Windows Desktop. We also have a mobile app store. As I mentioned, we can front-end both enterprise apps and public apps, and we do support all platforms. With that, I'm going to pass on to the next speaker.
Thank you, Sundar. This is Laural Gentry. Anyone in IT really understands the evolution that is taking place in the market right now, and that includes the continuing consumerization of IT. So you have end users bringing in their smartphones, their iPads, their tablets, running the iOS and Android operating systems. And then you have your own end users bringing in their own PCs, either Windows or Mac OS X based. And the way you handle those employee-owned devices can and should be very different from the way you manage corporate-owned devices. On a corporate-owned device, you can not only block software if someone installs a gaming system on their corporate-owned PC or has file share software that puts data files out on the cloud. You can and should actually uninstall those. With an employee-owned system, mobile device management gives you the ability to manage those assets appropriately. So not uninstalling those employee-owned applications and software, but perhaps blocking access to them while they're connected to your corporate network. So it really is all about, appropriately managing those employee-owned devices. As Sundar demonstrated, we do have in the next release of Client Automation the asset-level integration with MDM. So if you own both solutions, you will be able to set up a reoccurring collect from the MDM database, bring those software and hardware assets in for a comprehensive view within Client Automation. That would also, of course, then support integrations that you have to service desks so that information would be available to your service desk resources, ITAM and software asset management integrations that you may have. So we're very excited about this, and if you have any questions, please reach out to Sundar or I if you need any additional information. Mary, next I would like to talk about, and actually I have access to show you this presentation. So as you all know, we are in active development for our next release. Our next release will be number 12.8. We are skipping a number of release numbers. We're currently on 12.5 Service Pack 1, and our next release targeted for general availability in December will be number 12.8. We're doing that so that we align those numbers with a lot of the other automation products within CA. So our next release is 12.8. We're in active development, and we're developing in an agile methodology. So what that means is that at the end of every sprint, and we have 4-week sprints, we will be able to show you progress on the features that are in flight. So starting tomorrow, we'll be holding demonstrations around the new features in development. Not GA, not even beta yet, but as we develop these, you'll be able to see what we're doing and have your comments taken into consideration. They'll be held once a month between now and September, and so that's 3 over the next 3 months before the beta. And the beta starts in October, and you will then be able to actually get the pre-release software, install it on site if you want to and are able to take the time to do that, and test it on site with your data in your environment. Another benefit of participating in the end of sprint reviews is you will have access to a private message board on the community site called the 12.8 end of sprint review message board, where you can discuss the new features directly with development and other clients to talk about the new features, things that you would like to see added in future releases, things like that. Now, we will be recording these meetings. You know, we can't accommodate everyone's schedule, so we will have them once a month at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. They will be recorded and posted on this private message board on the community site so that you can access and view them at your convenience. Now, to participate, we do need you to register. I have the link here, and I believe Mary will be posting this presentation on the site, so you can access and click this link. Go and register. We do need that registration because it has a pre-release software agreement that we need you to sign to have access to this message board, to the recordings, and to the beta when it comes out in October. Upon registration, I will be tracking those registrations, and as soon as you register, I'll send you an invitation to the end of sprint reviews. Make sure that your user ID, email address, screen name is added to that 12.8 end of sprint review message board, and then you will also have access if you would like to participate in the on-site beta program. So at this time, I'd like to open it up for any questions you have on anything that we've discussed today, including the items that Rich Little went over that are in active discussion on the message boards, the CA mobile device management presentation that you heard, or the participation in the end of sprint demos that are going to start taking place tomorrow.
Up the audio lines, please, for questions.
At this time, if you'd like to ask an audio question, please press *1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. Again, if you would like to ask an audio question, please press *1 on your telephone keypad.
I'm just going to take it back to the registration page so that if you want to participate in these end of sprint reviews, please go to this link. You will need to sign on to the support site to get to this registration site, and it's just a simple click-through agreement for the pre-release software access agreement so that you are able to attend these end of sprint reviews.
There are no audio questions at this time.
I believe we did have one possible question that has come in through a separate line, and that is the option of remote controlling into mobile devices using CA-MDM. And Sundar, I believe that you are still on the line. Could you take that question?
Yeah, I'm still on the line. So for the mobile device management, as I mentioned, there is other aspects that we are looking into, the mobile application management and the mobile service management. that is something that's being looked into at this point, and we know there is a need for it. We are actually actively looking into it.
Okay, so that would be roadmap. We are looking into that. Another question I got. Go ahead.
No, it will be the current thinking is basically that will become part of the MSM offering, not so much on the MDM side, because we feel that having ability to do a remote control while it is in the context of mobile service management will be an additional feature rather than traditional mobile device management.
Laurel, it looks like we have a couple questions in the Q&A.
Okay. The first question is from Rafael. Can we know how to play CA-MDM versus MDM from Apple or other competitors? And I will also let Sundar front this one as far as, what are the advantages of CA-MDM over some of the competitive products that are out there?
Yes. First of all, we work very closely with Apple in terms of MDM functionality that we expose through using CA-MDM. We don't specifically treat Apple as a competition. Just as a way of background, we work very closely with them. And there are a variety of vendors in the marketplace, we understand. There are two things that actually completely distances us from anybody else. Actually, it's three things. Number one, we are the only vendor who have an ability to do Windows desktop management as part of a traditional MDM platform. Number two, our analytics is extremely extensive. We have looked into other competition. We find that ours is probably extremely comprehensive. We do have an access to the reports either via BI app, web reports, and also through the Explorer app. Number three is the fact that we are CA. We have lots of products in our portfolio. We just touched the basic one, the early one right now, because it actually absolutely makes sense in terms of integrating with Client Auto, Unified Asset View for applications and the devices. We also have plans in place to integrate with a variety of other products like AuthMinder, for instance. And AuthMinder provides an ability to secure the portal. And once, especially when you take the administrative portal and also the self-service portal into the SaaS offering, we provide an additional enhanced advanced authentication that no other vendor can provide. Number three, we are also planning to integrate with Identity Minder. So we, instead of just providing an AD support, we can provide support for authentication via Identity Minder. And as you know, Identity Minder supports various different authentication mechanisms, identity mechanisms. So we are hooking up our system with each and every possible CA offering, which will be above and beyond any other competition out there in the marketplace.
All right, Sundar, here's another question. What are the plans and how long will it take MDM to support new releases of iOS, Android, and Windows Phone? Is there an SLA for a certain period of time from the release to when MDM will support those?
So we actually have signed up an agreement with Apple, with Samsung. Samsung specifically, it's very important to highlight because they have gone way ahead in terms of providing support for enterprise control for a device. So in terms of the, we actually are early adapter programs. We are into the beta, and the virtue of us being part of SAP, we have an agreement with SAP. So we are running in parallel. So when a product shows up in the market, the general guidelines that we think that we'll be able to come up with is about a month or 4 weeks from the time the new release from any particular vendor has hit the market, we'll be able to support it. That's a general thumb rule. Varies depending upon the depending upon the platform vendor, but that's a general guideline I can give.
All right. Another question we had was, does CA mobile device management support GPS? And can you track the device's last location or route the device, et cetera?
Yes. So it's optional. It's a convenience that is provided to the end user. As I mentioned, we do try to keep the spirit of BYOD, and the fact that if a user decides not to enable GPS, that is totally up to him or her, because we want to have the BYOD freedom. However, if you turn on the BYOD, it is to your advantage in case of a compromise of a device. You can locate the device through a self-service portal. If you have lost the device, if you want to take certain action, for instance, you want to lock the device, or if you want to do a selective wipe of the device, it is in your interest to actually turn that feature on so you know where the device is located. It may be sliding in your pocket, or it may be in your suitcase. You might have forgotten. If you enable that feature, then you can locate the device. So it's totally up to the end user, but we don't mandate that this is needed. If it is turned on, then you get the benefit of the product.
Yes, exactly. You know, if you've just misplaced it, you don't want to wipe it unnecessarily. So a feature that you probably can and should turn on. There is another question. If we have mobile device management, do we need to increase the licenses for the other products like desktop and server management, client automation, the service desk manager? I can speak to the client automation licenses. No, you would not have to increase your license count for client automation, ITCM, DSM, whatever you know the product as, because we manage or we license on managed devices. We will be bringing these assets, displaying them in our database, but they are not managed assets. It's view only at this point for informational purposes. So no, you would not have to increase your license count under your client automation licenses. Here's another question, Sundar. We are using the Mobi Control tool for mobile devices. Do you have any information on the Mobi Control?
At this point, I'm not familiar with that particular product.
Okay.
I can actually do a research and get back.
All right. Another question was, in CA Mobile Device Management, how can we create the groups for the stores? Now, I'm assuming, and I'm going to clarify this question a little bit, I'm assuming that you mean certain people would have entitlements to certain applications. Is there a way to control that through the store, those entitlements, and what they're able to see in their app store?
So, yes. So the answer is yes. So when you create a policy, when you create an application policy, you can actually tie that to a specific Active Directory group. For instance, if it is a Salesforce app or I think I touched upon it. So there is a collection of apps you want to expose to only a specific set of users. It is possible to do it through a policy definition.
Sridhar, if that did not answer your question, please just put some clarification in the Q&A. Another question we had was a timeline on when CA Mobile Device Management will be GA.
So we have GA'd the product. Product is available right now for purchase, and we are having quarterly releases. Every incremental release, we will add more and more features. The current product that we have shipped supports iOS and Android. The product that we are, it is available for public consumption.
So it's already GA, and we will be having quarterly releases, adding additional platforms, adding additional features and functionality.
We are doing quarterly releases. We are going to the quarterly release, and also we will, at least at the initial, till we get to a steady state, we will be doing some service pack upgrades as well along the way.
All right.
So it is available. It is generally available.
All right. Another question, Sundar. The devices that are reporting to that MDM server, does MDM run agentless, or do you have to have an agent on that mobile device?
It does have an agent on the mobile device. It's a platform, both iOS and Android mandates it. At this point, yes, there is a client that is running on the visible client, which an app store front running on the device as an agent to perform the MDM function.
All right, very good. Does the MDM app have an internal messaging system, for example, for notifications or integration into a corporate mailing system?
It does have a notification system. So we do have a way to group the users, and we can push email through a standard SMTP service. We also have the ability to push notifications through native iOS and Android notification mechanisms such as APNS and Google Cloud. So it will come in as a, let's say that you want to broadcast to the entire company, there is some event that is going on, it can be emailed directly from our platform. It can also be notified via through the traditional notification mechanism that is found in iOS and Android.
All right. Brandy, there is a participant who wanted to ask a question over voice. His name is Sridhar Gouda. If you could open up his line, perhaps he could ask his question directly.
Okay, one moment. Mr. Gupta, your line is open.
Hi, Sridhar. Brandy, we're still not hearing him.
Okay, the line is open.
Sridhar, perhaps you're on mute. It doesn't appear that we're going to be able to hear you, Sridhar, so what I would propose is please email me or put a post on the message board, and we'll get back to you with details on your question. Were there any other questions at this time?
I think there were 3. Did you see the 3 at the bottom?
Okay.
We have an option to create rules.
All right. So, Sridhar, or Sundar rather, do we have options to create rules for deploying the packages in mobile devices?
I need a little bit of more elaboration what that means. Rules. So we do have a scripting logic to be able to execute certain activity on the device. We have a enrollment and application policy. I think that should cover what that is being talked about, but I would need a little bit more clarification in terms of rules.
All right, so we'll take this discussion offline and see if we can't get some more details on what the question around rules was. Were there any additional questions before we close the call today?
Again, if you would like to ask an audio question, please press *1 on your telephone keypad. There are no further audio questions at this time.
We do have another question online. Is CA-MSM a separate product, or will it be an extension of CA-MDM?
It's a separate product.
It is a separate product, okay. And another question that we've gotten is, are we able to do auto discovery for mobile devices?
Auto discovery from the management, from the server side. If the agent is running, the agent reports its presence through a heartbeat. So we can, that's the communication mechanism that is currently in place.
All right, but in that case, you are assuming that there is an agent on that mobile device,
yes.
and then it can auto discover it after that agent is on. But you do have to have the agent on there first.
That is right.
Yeah, the question was more around fresh devices. So you have a new unmanaged device to access your network. Do you automatically understand that this isn't managed and point them to the management agreement link?
I need to do a little research on it and get back to you on that.
Okay.
We can post something to answer that question in the message board.
We have another question about the Client Automation 12.8 release. Do we need to be at the C1 patch level in order to upgrade to 12.8? We will be supporting direct upgrades from 12.5 Service Pack 1 to 12.8, 12.8 Service Pack 1, Cumulative 1 to 12.8. In the next week, I will be publishing to the community site an upgrade and platform support notification to explain in detail what those upgrade paths are, as well as the platform support we are adding and the platform support that we will be dropping so that you are able to plan for your upgrade to 12.8. And we had an additional question: will we support versions older than the 12.5? And again, I'll be publishing all of that on the upgrade paths memo. And yes, I believe we will be supporting a direct upgrade path from 12.5. One question, another question has come in. Do we expect any short-term or long-term integration between client automation and the MDM products? Yes. In the 12.8 release, which is our next release of client automation, we will have the asset-level integration with mobile device management. So you'll be able to, if you have both solutions, you'll be able to import data from the MDM database into client automation database and view it within the UI. Additional integration would be the business intelligence reporting, the CAPI reporting, combine the two universes and do combined reporting off of that information. All right. Are there any additional questions? We'll wait another minute before we end the call to give everyone the opportunity to get their questions answered. And Mary has just displayed a poll. If you could please rate the value of today's webcast topics and let us know. That helps us, determine what subjects we cover in future quarterly webcasts. And evidently we have another question that has come in that I'm not able to see. Rich, are you able to see that, and can you read it out so that we can answer that for Sivan?
Will the other MDM products require different hardware, or can it all be installed, set up, and configured on the same server?
Laural, I can take this one.
Yes.
We have a specific set of requirements in terms of the software version, Windows version number and the release number. So it will be ideal if it is separately installed, because it has its own capacity planning depending upon the network, depending upon the needs. So it is recommended that it is separately installed.
And the question coming back is 4 different servers?
We have, it really depends on the capacity planning, and we actually have, if the customer is, it can be collapsed into one. It really depends on the size and the scale of the deployment. There are 4 different components. There are some customers that we know they don't particularly need a relay server if they're willing to poke the firewall hole. And then you can also combine package server, enrollment server, and basic MDM server, and then admin console and self-service portal all into one. It really depends on the network deployment, the size of the deployment.
Right.
We have a recommendation for different deployment, the types of hardware capacity needed, capacity planning documents we have. So that kind of covers in terms of how you want to deploy it.
Right. So Sivin is asking, how does that affect the MDM server farm?
MDM server, in terms of MDM server farm, again, it depends on the capacity planning. Depending upon how you want to deploy it, you can have multiple servers in multiple different geos. As I mentioned, when it is standalone MDM offering, we recommend it has to be a separate instance, and absolutely depends on the needs. We have customers who deploy separately. They also install it with a server farm. It depends on exactly their requirements. If they have an iOS-only deployment, they have an iOS and Android mixed deployment, depending upon the platform. It depends on the platform. It depends on the number of devices being managed, and it also depends on how much of a scalability one requires, availability it requires. So if there is a specific requirement in terms of the numbers and the geo, we can come up with a specific recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. We also had another question. If CA-MDM has Windows Desktop Management, which can do almost everything that ITCM does, can it replace ITCM? In other words, can we migrate to CA-MDM and stop using ITCM in the future? At this point, CA-MDM does not do everything that ITCM does on Windows desktops. It does not have the defined level control, policy-driven automation that client automation does. So you would have to take a very close look at your work cases or your use cases, how you're managing those desktops and how you want to manage those desktops, and make that decision. From what we've seen in the use cases we've gathered, you will want the level of control for those company-owned devices that client automation offers. For employee-owned devices, CA-MDM would probably be a more appropriate fit.
I would absolutely second Laurel's observation.
All right, thank you everyone, and please use the message board if you have additional questions. We'll be monitoring that and try to get your questions answered in a timely manner.
I would like to thank this opportunity to present CA-MDM. Laurel, I really appreciate us inviting us for part of this conversation. Really enjoyed the discussion today.
Yes, thank you everyone. Have a good weekend.
This concludes today's conference call. You may now disconnect.
Mm.